Evinrude Part 2. Link, sync of the carburetors. Okay, so in the last video, you could see where the linkage wasn't lining up, and this was really hard to turn. So I fixed that now, so it turns real nice. But we're still not lining up linkage-wise up there. But just so you know, since I didn't film this, is there's a little plastic tab here, and then underneath it, which it would be over here, and you just take a couple of, like a small screwdriver or something, push them in a little bit, and then this will come off. This was probably, maybe it was a choke button. I haven't figured this one out yet. It comes off, and so then there's like two pieces that are caps, right? And they got a groove. Okay, kind of goes around like so or whatever. And there's a pin that goes between the cable wire. It kind of slot. There's two little pieces. One, you'll totally make sense if you're doing this, but you just slide them through there. Sorry I didn't film this, but you just slide it through there, and then there's these little, I don't know, they look dome shaped, and they ride in that groove. It'll totally make sense if you take it off. Sorry I didn't do it, but anyway, that fixed our problem there. And then I greased it all up, and then I just put it back together. There's two caps, and then you take that little pin, put it through, and anyway, then this outside plastic piece just slides down. You can't mess it up. It's really, really simple. So I determined here is a kill switch, which I haven't had time to run down. And I've got it disconnected so it'll fire. This switch right here, it's really rusted out down in there. I don't have a battery hooked up. And I've already tried a screwdriver to see if it would actually work. It won't, so that has to be replaced. And then you have another button on the side here, which I believe was a horn. And I think that's underneath here, underneath your tiller arm there. So I believe that's a horn, and I don't know if it's working or not. What we need to do, according to the manual, which who reads a manual, right? I'm going to take this off, which takes our throttle linkage off. Disconnect this bolt, and then that'll be free. We need to measure, this is to our carburetor, so it opens the butterflies. So we have to do what they call link and sync. As if you see, that's not going back down to there. So those two arrows, see them? It's not right. So what we need to do is we measure this throttle to carburetor linkage, and I had to write this down. Between the middle of this barrel, which would be this, to here should be 7 13/16. And then we need to measure the center of this barrel on this linkage, which is the spark advance linkage. That is supposed to be 2 1/16. Then we'll make sure our carburetors are synced. And that'll be this screw and this screw. So first you open up this screw, so let it go flat. This notch on here has to line up with the center of this. But to adjust that length on the carburetor, you have to pop this off, turn that in until that measures 7 13/16. And you'll have to pop this one on that spark advance. Right, we're going to pop this, and it's going to turn in or out to get our 2 and what I say 1/16. So once I get that done, I'm going to get rid of the VRO. It's right here, has the baffle, and put just a regular fuel pump on it. Alright, let me show you something. So on our throttle linkage, we need to take that off, right? But do we? No, we don't. We can take this bolt out, and then we'll measure this rod, and we can move it in and out. Since this is loose, I can twist it so I don't have to pop this off and damage it. Then we're going to measure this rod, and we're going to see if we need to adjust that rod. Okay, so on the top one, I was afraid I'd break this, right? If you don't have the tool, because they make a tool for this, you can do this. It kind of sucks, but it works. So take this bolt out, put your hand back here so you can grab the washer. I can't do it with two hands and hold the camera, but when this pops out, there's a washer on the back side. Grab that washer. You loosen up this bolt, and then that gets this loose from here. So now we can move this out of the way, and we can loosen this bolt. Then this will be loose. We can turn it. Stick your hand back underneath it, grab the washer, and then it's loose. We can turn this out and measure it. Put it back together as a reverse process of what I took it off with. This behind it first. You could even start the bolt, I guess, if you wanted to. So now once we got all our linkage back, what you want to do is we're going to move these arrows to here. Should line up with this. Pretty much dead on. We're off over here. So now we just need to adjust our carburetors so that they line up with that arrow. So to do that, we got to undo that screw, but yeah, we're going to remove that screw and that screw, and then we're going to do the sync part. Link, sync in the carburetors. Okay, so the last thing you want to do when you get the marks all lined up is you have this jam nut and this screw, and that's gonna go up against your stop up there. This lines up, and your arrows, what you want to do, you'll loosen that jam nut, and then you're just gonna have that slightly rest there. That'd be your last step. And then they also say to, like, down here, you're supposed to measure this gap. They're saying 0.010. I mean, man, that's tiny. I was editing my video. I was getting ready to post it, and then I realized, you know, I needed to talk about this somewhat. Right now I got the throttle disconnected, but you don't have to disconnect the throttle. I kind of feel like, you know, you really kind of want to do it, because you're going to set your tiller handle right there. You know, that notch that's in the handle is going to be center, so that's neutral idle. And then at neutral idle, then, you know, of course, your arrows would line up there. So if you have this disconnected, then you have to put your cable in. So I have my cable in. I just had it hanging down. So this is where your bolt's going to go in to the housing that holds it. Obviously you can see that it, you know, you can move it in or out to adjust it. So I adjusted mine. It just took a while to get adjusted. It's almost like I was out of adjustment. But it's right on, and it was working good. So that bolt that holds it goes in there, and there's a metal tab, a bolt that right here that holds that tab on it, keeps it from popping out. This is a type where it has a barrel here. If you could use a different cable and use a barrel, but this one doesn't have one. I don't know if that was replaced at one time, or that's the way it was made, but you had two options. But I think it's better to have the cable hooked up, and of course they're saying Evinrude saying don't have it hooked up, and you know, I don't know about that. So whether you either have it hooked up or you don't have it hooked up, that's what you got to do to get the link in sync, and that should finish out this video.
I used to hear 'em talk